Have you ever wondered, what if your body already knows when it's time to say goodbye long before you do? It doesn't scream. It doesn't send alarms. It whispers, a little more tired than usual, a shiver that just won't go away, a voice that fades. Most of us brush these things off. I'm just getting older, we say. But what if that's not the whole story? What if those little changes are quiet warnings, signs that life is beginning to slow in ways we can't quite explain? In this video, we'll uncover 5 subtle signs that 99% of seniors show within the year before they pass, signs that most people miss until it's too late. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. It's about love. And maybe it's about recognizing when life is asking us to pause, to reflect, and to prepare. Stay with me. You may notice something you've seen in someone you love or even in yourself. Part 1. The cold that doesn't leave. When Mary Wilson turned 78, she still had her morning routine, a hot cup of coffee, the newspaper, and 20 minutes on her porch in Charleston in South Carolina. Winter or summer, Mary loved the quiet hum of the neighborhood waking up. But something changed last December. It started small. One morning, she came out in her usual sweater and shawl, but within minutes, she was shivering. Feels colder than it used to, she muttered, rubbing her arms. Her daughter, Jane, brought her an extra blanket, thinking it was just the weather, but the cold never left. Even when the thermostat was set at 75 degrees, Mary wore wool socks, a hoodie, and sometimes gloves indoors. She stopped sitting outside altogether, saying the wind made her bones ache. Her sheets started to feel scratchy. She flinched at the water in the shower. Once, she even asked Jane to replace her favorite fleece blanket because it suddenly felt too rough. These changes might sound minor, but for those paying attention, they mean something deeper. As the body slows down in later life, circulation weakens. Blood no longer reaches the hands and feet with the same warmth. The skin becomes thinner. The layer of fat that once helped regulate temperature fades away. Even the nervous system becomes more reactive. What once felt like a gentle breeze can feel like an icy blast. For Mary, it wasn't just about the cold. Bright lights started to bother her. The hum of the refrigerator felt too loud. Little things became overwhelming. And this retreat from comfort wasn't just physical, it was emotional. She didn't want to go out. She didn't want visitors. She just wanted things soft, quiet, and still. Many people mistake this for moodiness or being difficult. But the truth is, it's the body whispering, I'm changing. Sometimes, it's the first sign that the body's entering a new season, one of slowing down, of turning inward. If you see this in someone you love, don't brush it off. Adjust the thermostat, offer softer fabrics, dim the lights, sit beside them without speaking, and ask gently, what would make you more comfortable right now? These gestures don't cure anything, but they mean everything. Because when the body begins to fade, comfort is not a luxury. It's love in its most practical form. Part 2. The tiredness that sleep can't fix. Tom Henderson was 74 when he started turning down golf games. That may not sound like much, but Tom loved his Saturday mornings at the golf course in Tempe, Arizona. He wasn't the best player, but he loved the fresh air, the laughs with his buddies, and the gentle rhythm of the game. Then one weekend, he said no. Just feeling a little tired, he told his friend Dave, no big deal, everyone has off days. But the tiredness didn't go away. Even after sleeping 9 hours, Tom would wake up feeling like he'd run a marathon. Folding laundry left him breathless. A short walk to the mailbox felt like a steep hill. He started taking naps in the afternoon, but woke up more tired than before. His daughter, Rachel, Notice that he wasn't as chatty during their weekly video calls. "I'm just low energy lately," he'd say with a small smile, but the sparkle in his eyes had dimmed. What many people don't realize is that persistent fatigue, especially the kind that doesn't improve with rest, is one of the clearest signs that something deeper may be going on in the body. It's not just about aging. It's about energy systems that are failing quietly in the background. As we grow older, chronic inflammation becomes more common. The heart may not pump as efficiently. Oxygen levels in the blood may decrease. These changes don't always cause pain, but they drain your strength in subtle, steady ways. For Tom, tests later revealed that his heart was weakened and his red blood cell count was low. The doctor said his fatigue was his body's way of conserving energy, pulling back before things broke down completely. It's easy to overlook. We live in a culture that pushes us to power through, but sometimes what looks like laziness or aging is actually a whisper from the body. Slow down. I'm struggling. If you're noticing this in yourself or someone you love, don't brush it off. Pay attention. Fatigue is one of the body's most honest signals, and it rarely lies. What can you do? Start by acknowledging it. Talk to a doctor. Don't push too hard. Prioritize rest, but also nourishment, movement, and emotional connection. Because when your body is tired in a way that sleep can't fix, what it often needs most is understanding. Part 3. The voice that slowly fades. Robert Jenkins, 81, used to have a voice that turned heads. He was a retired high school history teacher in Columbus, Ohio, and his deep baritone once filled classrooms, auditoriums, and Thanksgiving dinners. His grandkids used to say, "Grandpa doesn't need a microphone." But over the past year, something changed. At first, it was subtle. His morning good morning to his wife Carol was softer than usual. He began taking longer pauses during conversations, as if searching for the right words. Sometimes he'd start a sentence, stop halfway, and just wave his hand like the rest wasn't worth saying. Carol noticed. "You okay, hon?" she asked one night as they watched the news. Robert just smiled and nodded. "Just tired, that's all." But it wasn't just tiredness. It was his voice, the very part of him that had once been so strong, now growing faint. He avoided phone calls at family gatherings. He'd sit quietly, listening more than speaking. His sentences were shorter, his tone raspier, and he no longer laughed quite as loud. What many don't realize is that changes in voice and speech can be more than just signs of age. They're often a signal that the muscles used to speak around the throat, mouth, and diaphragm are weakening. And when the body is conserving energy, talking becomes a lower priority. Sometimes it's mistaken for memory loss or disinterest, but more often it's the body gently stepping back from engagement, saving energy for vital functions. For Robert, this quiet withdrawal was heartbreaking to witness. His voice was his identity, but beneath it all, his body was speaking in its own way through fatigue, hesitation, and silence. It's important not to shame or rush someone when their speech changes. Instead of asking, "Why don't you talk anymore?" try, "Would you like to just sit together for a bit?" Offer presence, not pressure. Sometimes the loudest message a loved one can send is in the quiet they leave behind. Part 4. When the breath begins to shift. Helen Moore, 76, had always loved chatting on the phone, living in Boise, Idaho, far from her grandkids. Weekly calls were her lifeline, but recently, her daughter Megan noticed something different. "Mom, are you out walking right now?" Megan asked during a Thursday call. "No." Helen chuckled softly. "Just sitting on the couch." But her voice was strained. She paused more often. There was a faint rasp in her breath, and sometimes it sounded like she was sighing, not out of emotion, but effort. Over the next few weeks, Helen started ending phone calls early. "I just get tired talking," she'd say. During visits, Megan noticed her mom breathing more heavily even after just getting up from her recliner. At night, Helen's breathing became more erratic. There were long pauses, shallow breaths, then short bursts like her body was catching up. This wasn't just aging, it was a message. Changes in breathing, especially when subtle but consistent, can be one of the most important signs the body gives us as it begins to slow down. Shallow breathing, shortness of breath while resting, or patterns like Cheney-Stokes, where breath becomes fast, then slow, then stops momentarily, often signal the heart or lungs are under strain. As we age, the lungs lose elasticity. The muscles that help us breathe, including the diaphragm, weaken. The heart may not pump as strongly, leading to lower oxygen levels. But the body is wise. It adjusts, compensates, and whispers rather than screams. What's more, breathing reflects emotion. Many seniors approaching life's final chapters experience a quiet anxiety unspoken, even unnoticed. That unease often shows up as breathlessness, tightness in the chest, or frequent sighing. The body and spirit are deeply connected. For Helen, doctors eventually diagnosed early-stage congestive heart failure, but her breath told the story first. If you notice this in yourself or someone you love, don't ignore it. Watch not just the sound of the breath, but the rhythm. Are they breathing faster at night? Are there pauses? Do they avoid long conversations? You don't need to panic, but you do need to pay attention. Sometimes the breath doesn't need fixing, it needs honoring. Slower mornings, softer routines, more quiet, more presence, more space to simply be, because when the breath begins to shift, it's often the soul gently asking for stillness. Part 5, when the routine no longer matters. Joanne Mitchell had always been a woman of grace. At 83, living in Asheville, North Carolina, she still wore her pearl earrings to church, styled her hair every morning, and never missed her afternoon cup of chamomile tea in her favorite china cup. But something shifted last fall. Her daughter, Lisa, came by one Tuesday and noticed Joanne still in her nightgown at 2 in the afternoon. Her hair was uncombed, and the teacup sat unused by the sink. "You feeling okay?" Mom Lisa asked gently. Joanne smiled, but her eyes looked far away. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just didn't feel like fussing today." At first, Lisa thought maybe her mom was just having an off day, but days turned into weeks. Joanne began skipping meals, leaving her bed unmade, and sometimes stayed in the same clothes for days. She stopped putting on makeup, and the newspaper stayed untouched. This wasn't like her, but here's the thing, it wasn't depression. Joanne wasn't sad or hopeless. She wasn't crying or withdrawn. She was just letting go, quietly, gently, as if the daily rituals that once gave shape to her world no longer felt important. For many seniors, this kind of withdrawal doesn't come with a dramatic announcement. It comes in small steps: a skipped shower, a missed breakfast, a forgotten favorite blouse. Not because they've stopped caring, but because their energy is fading and their priorities are shifting inward. Getting dressed, brushing teeth, making lunch, these were once automatic, but now they feel like mountains. When the body begins to slow, it starts preserving energy for the essentials: breathing, resting, remembering. Everything else feels like noise. Joanne wasn't giving up. She was preparing, though she may not have realized it herself. If you see this in someone you love, don't rush them back into routines. Don't scold or push. Instead, offer presence. Sit with them. Gently ask if they'd like help with their hair or to share a light meal together. Not out of obligation, but out of love. These small acts aren't just hygiene, they're connection. They say, I see you. I'm here. Because when a person begins stepping back from daily life, it's not always a sign of despair. Sometimes, it's a quiet return to stillness, a final bow before the curtain falls. If any part of today's message touched your heart or reminded you of someone you love, you're not alone. Aging is a journey, one that's often quiet, sometimes confusing, but never without meaning. If this video brought you comfort, clarity, or simply made you pause and reflect, please give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment, tell us which part spoke to you the most, or share your own story. And if you believe someone else might need to hear this too, don't hesitate to share it. Most importantly, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. We're here to walk this journey with you, one gentle truth at a time. Thank you for spending your time with us. You matter, and you're not alone.